Good afternoon, everyone, again, and welcome to our panel number 5, our final panel, Tools and Strategies for Global Geosuccess. I'm Dina Shaikhislam, and I'm going to be your moderator for this panel session. Today, we'll explore the latest tools and strategies that are shaping in international government relations all over the world, from cutting-edge analytics and digital engagement to integrating PR into economic and public opinion strategies and tools. So we also have we're also going to hear real world examples from our distinguished guests and innovative approaches that are making a huge difference on global stage. Our distinguished guests, and I'm not sure, is Kendall here already?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, yeah. So our distinguished guest, hey Kendall, I'm going to introduce you in a bit. They bring a wealth of expertise in this area and practical experience, which is more important. Let me briefly introduce our guests. So joining us online, Kendall Coffey. Hi, Kendall again. A distinguished attorney from Southern District of Florida, Florida's super lawyer. He's also annually recognized as Florida's legal elite, like this position, super lawyer, and so on and so forth. He also shares his insights on such global networks like CNN, Univision, Telemundo, and so on and so forth. We also have Marina Ostinova, but Marina, she okay, so she's not joining us today, right? Because I saw her. Oh, all right, okay. Also, we have Frank Ahrens. He's the principal and head of BGR Analytics. He uses data analytics to advise clients, including governments, corporations, on strategic risk management and reputation building. And he joined BGR in 2014, and his clients include governments of South Korea, Panama, India, and also high net worth individuals from Hollywood. This middle is the euro, right? Yeah. We also have Mendel Bannon, a founder director of Meaningful Moment, which focuses on promoting mental health and resilience in public schools. Alongside, they also have great experience in international humanitarian policy. And Ksenia Tarasenko, account manager at Forum Analytics. She specializes in public affairs, software, and partners with government affairs teams to enhance their legislative tracking, grassroots engagement, stakeholder strategies, and so on and so forth. So with that, we can get started. Let's dive in and start with our first question to Kendall. So what strategies and collaborations does your legal team employ when representing American companies domestically versus representing foreign governments within the U.S.?
Well, thanks for the question, and thank you for letting me appear by Zoom, because I'd wanted very much to join you in person and was just not able to get out because of some court matters. But of course, like any question you ask a lawyer, the first thing we say is it depends, and it does. But one of the things that I think is distinctive about foreign governments or agencies of foreign governments is that if you're in court or even dealing with a member of Congress, they already have built-in views of that country, views that have developed over a lifetime, whatever the country may be. By and large, you've got some sense of predisposition. It's not like, well, it's an automobile manufacturer, or it's a bank, or things like that. And so part of what you need to do is, of course, some level of education, but also a recognition that you may not get the reaction that you want the first time, whether you're in court or you're in some kind of a legislative meeting. And so, at least from my standpoint, dealing with the preconceived notions about a particular country or about a particular government becomes an additional part of the process.
Oh, thank you so much. And how do you, as a legal professional, navigate these different contexts? Could you please share your experience with that?
Well, I think one of the earlier guests had mentioned media strategies for some companies. I don't find that if you're dealing with a U.S. company or U.S. client, that can have some impact, and you do want to work whatever you think is the most relevant media sources for your particular venue. So, for example, uh, if you're in the appeals court in Atlanta, there's big newspapers in Atlanta. And nowadays, of course, there's so many other kinds of media. So your media strategy should, in a perfect world, be something that the decision maker you're targeting pays attention to. Because I remember a case from years ago where we had great media in Miami, but other parts of the country not so good. And I think that ultimately cost us. And again, with foreign governments, I think the challenge is different. I think that a good story in a major newspaper isn't going to change anybody's mind after 40, 50 years in terms of what they believe about that country or that government. But you can definitely get your side of the story, and sometimes that's the whole key to success.
Oh, interesting. Thank you so much, Kendall. And like when we're talking about media strategies, I have a question for Frank. How can international GR professionals use data and storytelling strategies to better serve the client's needs?
Well, thanks for asking, because I'm glad I came right after him because he brought up an interesting point. I too don't think that a positive story in a major newspaper is going to change any minds, because nobody reads big stories in newspapers anymore. If you want to change minds, you don't try to get a reporter to write a nice story about you. You use every digital channel to surround your target audience. That means geolocation ads. It means search engine optimization. It means buying ads on the second, third, and fourth publications that your target audience reads. It means a 360 view. And I think it is true. There is a great deal of inbuilt bias toward every foreign country. And that's why I started, we call BGR Analytics. I work at a lobbying company that represents a lot of foreign governments. I do the PR on that. And I became frustrated because we're unable to really help the clients know where they stand in Washington. Every foreign country wants to know where it stands in the US, particularly with the one or two or three other countries they're rivals with or they just don't like, because everybody's trying to compete for the same piece of the pie. And so I said, is there a way we can measure this? And so I looked at soft power indexes, right? That's kind of your start. But that didn't help me, because I didn't care how much a country was well known in the world. I only cared about how they were thought of in the US. And also, none of the soft power indexes include any sort of online news or social media monitoring, because you need to know, if you're a foreign country, what people are saying about you online in the US. That's a big part of your perception. And so do we have a chance to show the slides that I brought? We have anybody on the slides? Maybe we can in just a second.
Yeah.
So we created some indexes. I hired a data scientist from Bloomberg News, and we created several indexes based on open source and proprietary data. And the first one we created, if you pop to the next slide, is the BGR Impact Index. So we rank all 197 UN member and observer states based on 25 categories of open source and proprietary online data. And we create a ranking of 1 to 197. Now, we only show the top 25 here because there's no sense in embarrassing anybody. But are you surprised that Japan is number 1? Would you expect one of the usual suspects? Well, Japan hits like top 2 or 3 in almost all of our categories. Look how many Asian countries there are there. So this kind of data can help our clients know they don't just have to go on gut feeling anymore where they stand. So that's the beginning of the answer to the question. I think it's really important for government relations officials and professionals to be able to apply data to what they're doing.
So actually, I wanted to add that Frank established BGR Analytics in 2023, right? And that creates risk analysis products. And so you give intelligence to your clients so that they could make the best decision, right?
Right.
Yes, this is interesting. And could you please share some examples of effective use of data and effective storytelling techniques? Yes.
Well,
Any?
you set me up for the next one. So if you go to the next slide, here's the second index we did. Best states for Asian investment index. Do you think there are Asian automakers that right now are thinking, I really ought to build factories in America after what the White House said yesterday? Absolutely, they are. So Asian automakers and Asian companies are a huge source of investment here in the US. This is really a site selection tool. If Mitsubishi wants to build a new factory, where should they go, right? So do they just go where there are other Mitsubishi factories, or should they look around? And so like we did with the first index, here we can put together 136 data categories, many of them with Asian characteristics, and we ranked all 50 states based on where is the best place for Asian investment of all 50 states. You might be surprised to see that Utah is number one. Utah had one of the best COVID snapback economies of any state. The only thing against Utah is its high cost of living. Everyone wants to live there. So it's pushed up housing prices. And so this sort of thing can lead to effective storytelling. Let's say you're a state economic development officer in Utah and you want to try to get investment from Korea, show them this. Oh, we're ranked number one, right? So absolutely, if I'm advising a foreign client, whether it's a company or a government, I will try to give them a suite of options to help them tell their story at their target audiences.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you a lot, Frank. And I also have a question for Mendel. Like, since you have this background in humanitarian policy initiatives all over the world, so working across various U.S. states, how do you coordinate international and your activities among them? Because, like, yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Katerina, for inviting me. Although when I agreed to come, I thought it was going to be a conference of rabbis. So
We can organize that too.
So actually, I would say that instead of, maybe the question is the other way, that instead of trying to coordinate different efforts across different states, where obviously there's different political climates and there's different interests and there's different issues, the first thing that you should do is try to find the most core idea, the most core messaging or issue that you're trying to deal with, and stick to that and find an idea that will relate to everybody and in every climate and every place. And then strategies and the plans and the to-do list and how to disseminate that messaging will differ per whichever state you're working in. But as long as you have that core idea that everyone can identify with, you'll be able to stay focused and you'll be able to build off of that. And oftentimes when you're meeting somebody and you don't know yet what political background they have or what their interests are, and you need to pitch to them, you can't just, based on the place they are or, how the meeting was set up, have that information. You need to start off from the core, something that you know for sure they will identify with, and then pitch like that. For example, I was meeting with a Meaningful Moments. We work with public schools across the country. We help them start their minute of silent reflection. I was meeting with a principal in Alaska, actually, where we have a couple of schools, and he asked me. He said, "Why do you need to have this program in school? There are mental health benefits, and it helps children stay focused. Why does that need to happen in school? Maybe that should happen at home. Why is this the school's responsibility?" So I asked him a very simple question. I said, in today's day and age where we have access to the best courses and lessons online, you could find the best math lessons online, you could have access to the best history teachers online. Why do we still have teachers in the classroom? Why don't you just lock up the kids in the classroom, open YouTube, and have the best teacher in the world? And I told him, because a math teacher's job is not to teach math, to teach math. A math teacher's job is to teach children math, and a history teacher's job is to teach children history. And when we forget that the main thing in the classroom is the children and not the subject, not the skills we're teaching, we kind of miss the point of education. So anything a school could do to empower the children and help them have the tools to live their life properly is within the school's responsibility. That's just an example of identifying what education is, what a school's responsibility is, and then working off that on how to apply the program to their school.
Oh, thank you, Mendel. And since you have this broad, very rich experience in with working with different states and jurisdictions, could you please share what approaches do you utilize to ensure effective communication and strategy? Especially when we're talking across different jurisdictions. Yes.
Right. So, I mean, it's the same idea of having this core messaging, this core idea, this core thing that you're pushing on, being extremely focused on that. Oftentimes, people have a variety of issues that they're pushing at the same time, and it's impossible to be properly invested in many issues at the same time. You need to be super focused on the specific issue that you're pushing, the specific thing you're trying to deal with. Focus on that and make sure your entire team is 100% focused on that as well. And once again, when you're focusing on the core mission, the core issue that you're trying to deal with, everyone's going to be on the same page, even though, every place is going to have their own strategies and their own plans on how to enact your core mission, but you're always going to be able to fall back on that core mission, which is applicable to all places and all times. And one of the things that I do with my team, not always together, but each person does, is we actually apply the meaningful moment. We do it in our own lives. That every single day, at the beginning of the workday, take a minute before you jump into the first meeting or the first email, whatever, to stop and think, what am I doing? What am I trying to accomplish? What is my job for today? What am I trying to accomplish over time? Be meaningful about what you're doing. Be intentional about that day. And that really helps ensure staying focused, as close to the mission as possible. And that's how we are having our success.
Thank you so much, man. That's a meaningful moment for us as well, right? Thank you a lot. And since we were talking about nonprofit advocacy, and Ksenia here, she's got lots of experience in working with nonprofit advocacy and regulatory analysis. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And now, as far as I understand, you're working at this intersection of technology and government affairs. So how do you see digital tools transforming the way public affairs professionals engage with policymakers and other stakeholders?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like what Frank has said, data really matters a lot. And what really is the focus these days is quantifying your results. And what I noticed maybe several years ago till now, everything moves at a really, really high speed. And also because everything moves at such high speed, what top government affairs teams want to do is they want to really be proactive rather than being reactive when you're trying to reactively do something about the bill that passed or legislation that passed that has not been in your favor. So what I've seen being the game changer now is AI, and I know many of us has probably used AI in this room, and if you feel like you haven't, credit card fraud actually gets checked by AI. So what Quorum has done is that we introduced government affairs AI within our platform. And how does this help international government affairs teams and government affairs team in general is that it allows you to spot the trends in legislation before it even becomes a law. You can see social media dialogue. You can see who is the most vocal. What did Marco Rubio say about trade and what has been talking about in sanctions in Biden administration? And once you get spotted this faster using AI, you can start analyzing those tools. And by analyzing what they're talking about, you can be proactively reaching out to legislators who you need to meet in order to have your policy getting passed. So I've seen AI within our platform draft emails already that have scheduled successful meetings. How it helps international affairs work, because I do work with a lot of EU clients and a lot of international clients, is that sometimes English is not your first language, and what really does help is that using AI, summarizing without any bias, just looking at the pure data in simple terms, what is this thing even means? And by understanding it easily, you can easily bring those points to the meeting and schedule successful meetings. So what I really being successful is seeing trends before they even appear to be a trend using AI in order to go through a bunch of data, and schedule successful meetings.
We use one of your tools for a client for call to action. So we have a client who wants to get a particular bill turned into a law. And so we send out content with digital advertising to thousands of people across the country who to show up on their mobile phones or in their inboxes who may be likely to support this, saying, please send an email to your member of Congress to support this bill. And we give them a form to do it. And when they fill it out, it goes into the quorum product, and then they send it to the correct member of Congress. And I believe you have an AI tool that also, as you can see, if you're a staff member of Congress and you get these form letters, you get 100 and they all look the same. They have an AI tool that will help do a variation on them so they don't all look the same, so they look more organic.
Yeah, thank you so much, Frank. And to add on that speech, for example, before you draft one email, now with AI, you can draft up to 300 different variations of the same email, and will go to various different offices. And as I said, you're proactive and you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And do we have a question from audience? Yes, sure.
Yes, I didn't even ask this on the panel, but there seems to be like a narrative that is created that this current administration is a threat to democracy. And it seems to be like a rapid narrative that's growing, right? What impact do you think today's current landscape, as far as marketing, as far as concerned, the online landscape, what impact do you think the current landscape has on that narrative? And also, what part do government relations professionals play in it?
Well, since you're looking at me. So I think it's fair to say that this president is unlike any president we've seen even his first term. I'm not sure I've seen a president come back into office with this much juice since Reagan in '84. I mean, it's remarkable that he has the Congress support, and he is doing exactly what he said he was going to do during the campaign. He's doing it with amazing speed. What it means is that it's creating a ton of uncertainty for foreign governments, for companies, foreign companies, US companies, and they are looking minute by minute to see what American policy is that affects them. And so they are increasingly needing help. They need help from law firms like our first guest. They need help from lobbying firms, PR firms like I do, to try to get their message through to this administration. It is a time of great uncertainty and great opportunity, and also great danger, I would say, for some. Because if you are all of a sudden a foreign automaker, you wake up and there's 25% tariff on your car, then that makes you less competitive against GM, Stellantis, or Ford. And so it has been an amazing churn over these past, the speed of which and the volume of which I've never seen.
Yeah, that's true. So that's why we're talking about, like today, we're trying to talk about these emerging trends, right? That they're shaping the future of public affairs strategy. And could you elaborate on that more? Maybe you or Frank, right? About this more on emerging trends.
Get us started, since I do work with over 2,000 clients, and of course, to some, it's been.
You personally?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I serve the largest cohort in quorum. And because I work with such large cohort that frankly goes from enterprise to mom and pop to people shops, I do see that for some people, it's a great opportunity, especially if they are more conservatively leaning. They're trying to do everything to pass their legislation now while they have a chance. And to some people who do rely on grants, for example, or who are more left-leaning, it is times of great danger. And what I've seen across like both sides of the aisle, what matters is the speed. That's why tools such as like AI, for example, or any data points that can really get you the meeting and break through the silo and work proactively is why it's so important. That's why I'm saying being proactive what matters, because everybody on both sides of the aisle is trying to push through vast amounts of data to get precisely to what you need to see. That's why having alert management, for example, that gives you alerts on the new tariffs is why it's so important these days, is really the speed.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone, either side of the aisle will agree we're in a 2-year sprint, because there's a good chance, if history is a judge, that one of the houses of Congress will flip in the 2026 election. And so President Trump won't have a complete Congress on his side. And so the administration and the allies in Congress are trying to push through everything in the next 2 years, while the Democrats are working to try to flip one of the houses
and then they would be able to stymie legislation in the final 2 years of President Trump's second term in his lame duck time. So it's really, you can almost think about it as a 2-year presidency, because a 4-year presidency compressed into 2 years.
And thank you so much. And do we have any questions from audience? Yeah, because it's such a complicated and interesting topic, and today we talked about the different strategies that are working or maybe not working already, and we challenged conventional approaches, which is amazing, and we heard about emerging trends. And I want to thank our distinguished panelists for sharing their experiences, for giving us practical examples. And oh my God, 2,000 counts. So that we could think creatively about the future of government relations. Thank you so much. And thank you all too. And we are going to the networking event right now, right? At the Capitol Hill Club. So we should all join us right now. And thank you so much. If you have any questions, we can ask our guests individually. Thank you a lot. And thank you, Kendall, for joining us online.
Well, the pleasure's mine. As usual, I learned a lot today listening to my colleagues on the panel. Thank you all.
We are waiting for you here in DC. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Yes. Have a good day. Thank you a lot. And we'll be seeing you at our networking.